Tonight's workshop is about painting an onion. And I'm going to show you what it was that inspired me. Okay, there are two of them. I was cleaning out where my cabinet where I have potatoes and onions, and I discovered that these were beginning to sprout. So I will go ahead and I will plant these in my garden as soon as it stops being like 30 degrees outside. And then they will create more onions. But isn't that absolutely gorgeous? I love the area here where you see the little roots and then the filminess of the skin, and just amazing, all of this coming out of it, right? So between the two of these, I figured we have something to paint. I also love when they throw off little pieces of skin like this, and I like including those in my paintings as well. So um, I had a request this week from um, Flower Gazer to show, like, how do you paint in watercolor on canvas? That was a good question. And so I have prepared not only a canvas, but some other surfaces, and I'm going to explain to you how we prepare these various surfaces. So, first of all, of course, watercolor paper, right? And we all know how, or if you've been following me, you know how to paint on watercolor paper. So this is the one of the onions, the smaller onion there on watercolor paper. And then not only, onions, not only do they come in this beautiful color here, but they also come sort of as a red purple, right? So I did another one like this with the red purple. I love this color of the red purple. Now you're going to notice that with my artwork, it doesn't look realistic, and that's on purpose because I don't like to paint realistically. I know there are a lot of artists that are out there that do. I've watched a bunch of videos of people painting onions, and the painting comes out looking almost exactly like the onion. That's not my objective. When you look at a piece of my art, I want you to see strokes and I want you to know that it is a painting and not a realistic artwork. Now, some people, they're amazing at the realism. Just know that I'm not the person to teach you realism, okay? But if you look at that, you know what it is. You know that it's an onion and that it's begun to grow, right? I didn't have this sitting in front of me. I used this as my inspiration, and then I painted this one. But those are done on paper, and uh, Flower Gazer had asked me, yeah, impressionism, exactly. It's what I do is more impressionism. But Flower Gazer had said, "Hey, I want to paint with watercolor, but on canvas. Can you help me with that?" So that's we're going to be talking right now about different surfaces that you can paint on with watercolor besides just paper. And this is one of them. And so this is an onion that I painted on a wood panel. So this is a birch wood or a plywood, something like that panel made for art. And so I had to treat the panel first, which I'm going to show you in just a second, all of the things that I use to treat my various surfaces before I paint on them with watercolors. So that is a watercolor painting. You can kind of see a little bit of a shine on there because I had to seal the wood first, and I'm going to show you the things that I used to do that sealing. And then I painted on it with the watercolor. Now, this watercolor is not sealed, so it is susceptible to if you get a drop of water on it, it's gonna mess it up. And, so this can either be mounted behind glass, or if you want to, you can use a wax medium to seal it. So this is what I use, the Dorlands, by Jacquard. Let me see, Jacquard right there is the Dorlands wax medium, and I use that to seal a watercolor painting. So we are going to seal this painting toward the end of the activity that we're doing today, but I wanted to show you this is a watercolor painted on a board, but I had to prep the board first. And do you see the black? This is acrylic paint over here. you want to put your acrylic paint on the edges before you seal the top with wax. So that way, if any wax gets over the edge, you won't impede putting your acrylic paint on the edges. So that's what I did was I painted the edges first so that this is ready to be waxed. Once it's waxed, you can just put your little hanger on here on the back and put it up on the wall, and you can present it just like that. That's why I went ahead and painted the edges. But what I like to do with these is to mount them in a floater frame. So again, there's no glass on the front of the floater frame, but they look really good in that type of floater frame. So I'm going to show you how I prepped this wood. And here are some other surfaces. So you can, there is a medium. It's an acrylic based emulsion medium, but it is made specifically to go on other surfaces so that you can paint watercolor on multiple surfaces. There are two companies that I'm aware of that make it, Golden Paints and Daniel Smith Watercolors. So what I was using to seal was the Daniel Smith. So this is the Daniel Smith watercolor. It's called a watercolor ground. That means you're just like gesso um, is a ground for acrylic paints and oil paints. That's what it's called. It's a primer. So you're going to put something like this, either the golden or in this case, the Daniel Smith watercolor ground. Now, this happens to be a transparent ground. Let me see if I put it up there. Maybe you can read it. It says transparent watercolor ground. That's my favorite one that I like to use because if you're using the transparent ground, you can see the beautiful wood grain right through it, right? If I used a white ground, which is available, then you wouldn't be able to see the wood through it. You just see the white in the background. Now you can tint this medium. What do you tint it with? You tint it with watercolor. You could put just like a teeny tiny half of a pea size of acrylic paint in it because it is an acrylic emulsion made specifically to take watercolor. But Daniel Smith in particular says, hey, put a little bit, a little dab of your watercolor paint. So this is a Daniel Smith gamboge color. And I took that and mixed a little bit of it in with the medium, and this is what I got. Now, this is a canvas board from Blick, and so it comes with canvas on it, and it already has a gesso preparation, which is that white background. So what I did was I took this transparent medium for watercolor ground, and I added a little bit of this paint to it. Now, I painted one layer and it wasn't enough. There wasn't enough, to me, it wasn't dark enough. It was too patchy. You'll find when you put this on with a color in it, it can come up a little patchy. So then I sanded that first layer a little bit, just a little bit with like a 400 or 600 grit sandpaper. And then I put a second coat on. So you can still see some variation in the surface in terms of the color, but now that is a tinted background um, with the watercolor medium, the transparent watercolor medium, so that I can paint on top of it. And that will take watercolor. We're actually going to use this tonight to do one of those purple or red, whatever they call them, red onions, right? That looks kind of purple. We're gonna because purple is the opposite color of yellow in the color wheel. So because of that, I want to do the purple one on here because it'll really look great. It'll like boom, pop off that background. But yes, you can tint the background if you're using one of these mediums. And so that was for a panel, a canvas panel. Now that would also be the same preparation for this, which is a stretch canvas, right? Or even loose canvas. I buy pads that have loose canvas in them and they're primed on one side with acrylic uh, gesso, the white gesso. And so you can just put, I've already put two coats of this Daniel Smith transparent brown on here. So this canvas is now ready to receive watercolor, and we're going to do the this color of onion on this one tonight. So you're going to get to see both of them. Now for the wood, it's a little bit different. And where's my other wood panel? So this is my wood panel that is not painted yet. Okay. But, and this already has the watercolor medium on it. All right. Two coats of the watercolor medium. But you have to seal the wood before you put this medium on it. You don't have to, but I like to. Okay. Um, just from years of working with different types of surfaces, you just never know what the condition of that wood is when you go to paint on it. And there's something with wood called support induced discoloration. SID, support induced discoloration. And what that is the acid coming back through the wood. It's just natural, it's part of the wood. Now, when they prepare it for an art surface, most of the time they take all, they neutralize it so that it doesn't have acid that will potentially come back up through the wood. But you know what? This was an inexpensive panel that I bought online, so not it is made for art, but it was very inexpensive. So I said, I'm gonna seal that before I put this watercolor ground on it. So I'm gonna tell you right now what I seal wood with. So wood is a porous surface. If you have a porous surface that you're gonna put that you want to put this watercolor ground on, you need to seal it first so you don't get that SID, that support induced discoloration. And so what you use is a golden product, so golden acrylic medium, GAC 100. This is called GAC 100. And GAC, you can see I even wrote notes on it years ago for myself. It says coat raw wood with this, then put your gesso or your other mediums on it, and that will seal the wood. So I put two coats of GAC 100 on this wood before I put this two coats of this uh, watercolor ground. Okay, so that is for a porous surface. Now you can also paint this ground onto a non-porous surface. So what would that be? For instance, this is a piece of plastic out of a frame. Maybe you have a piece of glass out of a frame. Both plastic and glass, you can put this watercolor prep on. So wouldn't it be cool to put it on something like this where you have the translucency, the light coming through it? It'd be awesome. So what you'd have to do, of course, is peel this plastic. There's a protective coating on it, right? So you would peel the protective coating on it, and then you have to put a medium on it first to give it some grip or some tooth in order for this to grip onto. So Golden has a medium for that. It's called GAC 200. Now, don't worry, I will have links to these items in the description of the video on YouTube later tonight. So you can look at the video tomorrow and go into the description and see the links to these products. So this is GAC 200. And again, use with metal. So it says here, use with metal. So what you want to do is put two coats of GAC 200, which will dry clear, on your glass or plastic or metal. So you can buy, this is awesome, y'all. This is an aluminum panel. So do you see the aluminum right there? It's an aluminum panel that by Aluma. So it says here, you can see Aluma Corp. And they make these panels specifically for artists, because oil painters even paint on these. And one side is smooth and the other side is a brushed metal. So it is suggested that you use the brushed metal side, and then you put your GAC 200 on there. You don't have to use the brush metal side. I was just reading about it and it suggested that you put it on the brush metal side. Um, but I would say, hey, experiment with both because see how you can get these in a small size and in storage. I have like a 36 by 36 size. And they put a core inside it and you can paint on either side here, like I said. Um, but they stay nice and stiff and yet they're relatively lightweight for working on a piece of metal. If you want to try that out, and again, this would give you wouldn't this give you an interesting background, just like the wood gives you this beautiful rich brown color for the background. This would give you an amazing silver color for the background. Wouldn't that be cool? And so it's just knowing. And one of my sayings for my students is there's a medium for that, right? When it comes to acrylic painting or surface preparation, there's a medium for that. So now you know GAC 100 from Golden for your porous surfaces and GAC 200 for your non-porous surfaces. And then you can put either the Golden or the Daniel Smith watercolor ground on it, and you're good to go. As a matter of fact, you can put the pastel ground on it. You'd be able to put any other of the types of grounds that you would use for different techniques on after using the GAC 100 or the GAC 200. Now, if we're talking about paper, the reason you don't have to do that with paper, your watercolor papers is the watercolor papers are sized. That means inside the paper pulp of the watercolor, they put a sizing that helps prevent the paint from just soaking all the way through. So where on the wood here, which is porous, we put the GAC 100, paper already has a sizing built into it to prevent paint the watercolor paint from going in and just spreading everywhere. I've made handmade paper and I didn't put any sizing in it. Oh my gosh, when I put paint on it, it just soaked right in and it spread and I had zero control. So watercolor paper already has something that is the sizing that's been put inside it in order to prevent these different things that can happen with other surfaces. But now you know how to prepare your various surfaces for watercolor if you want to use something other than your watercolor papers. All right, so there you go. What Flower Gazer had asked that question last week. Said, "Can you show us how to paint on canvas?" Like, yeah, I got you. So I'm going to put these surfaces away and show you something else. Great info. Thank you. You're welcome, Flower Gazer. I'm here for you. I'm here for my viewers. So ask your questions away. I've been in the business long enough. I've tried so many things that I can answer almost every question for you. Now, besides the preparing a surface yourself to receive watercolor, like the with mediums like this, there are surfaces that are absolutely beautiful that are already prepared for you and they are on a stiff backing. Okay. So the first one, my favorite one right now, this is my number one right now, is the ampersand is the name of the company. That's their logo right there. Ampersand Aqua Board. Now these prepared surfaces are not cheap. Okay. Because they've already done the work for you. Where these panels, oh my goodness, these like light panels, they cost hardly anything, but then I have to take my time and my materials to prepare them to receive the watercolor. This aqua board from Ampersand is already ready. It is designed specifically for aqua media, for inks and for watercolor paints. And I love using these. They're nice and stiff, they're a hard board. And afterwards, I like to put the Dorland's wax on it to seal it. And then you don't have to put it behind glass if you don't want to. Then there's another company that's sold by Jerry's Artorama, and it's called a Da Vinci panel. So this is a Da Vinci Pro panel. Again, it's a hard panel like this, okay? And it is called an aqua painting panel. This is their aqua painting panel. So this also will take watercolors and inks. Okay, so they are designed specifically for that. And again, after using it, I would seal it. The time that you don't seal it with wax is when you're using metallics. So if you're using a gold paint or a silver paint on it, um, if you use the wax, it doesn't completely get rid of the shimmer, but it definitely knocks the shimmer down a little bit, and I like maximum shimmer. So if I use, I try to avoid myself using the metallics on the boards because I like to wax the boards and then they can just go into a frame and you don't have to put the glass on the front of it. But, try it if you wanna try it with metallics, knock yourself out. The, Dorland's wax doesn't completely get rid of the shimmer of the metallics, but it knocks it down just a little bit. And then there's one more board that's a little, less expensive than these because these have a hard panel in the background, and this is the Fredericks. So see here, Fredericks watercolor canvas boards. So you can buy this and it's already ready to go. This is a one of one in the package. There's not multiple in this package, but this is a single 8 by 10 and it's a canvas board. So it's very similar to this one that was from Blick, right? That's a canvas board. So it's just canvas stretched onto a cardboard backing, and this is one that has a very fine cotton. I like this because it's a little more fine. It's not really bumpy as well. It is bumpy, but it looks more like a linen. So it's a very fine cotton on these, but it's the Fredericks already prepared for watercolor, ready to go right out of the package. So that's awesome. Love that. But if you wanted to tint any of these surfaces, even these, if you wanted to tint them before putting your watercolor on top of them, you would still want to use like this, either the golden or Daniel Smith, and either the transparent or the white, and then you'd be able to tint that with a little bit of watercolor. Okay. Um, Now, the other thing about that Daniel Smith watercolor ground is it comes in the transparent and the white, but they also have pearlescent white, they have gold, they have black. So there are several options that you have. Oh, and I think there's a yellow ochre as well. So you have several options for the background color if you wanted to play around with that, because imagine using the black and then using your shimmer watercolors on top of that. Ooh, that would look gorgeous, right? So yes, this watercolor ground now. I'm not familiar with the golden watercolor ground coming in all those other colors. I haven't seen that before, so it's possible that the golden does, but I haven't seen it. I've only seen the golden and white. I don't even know if the golden watercolor ground comes in clear. I don't know, but that's why I bought the um, Daniel Smith, because I like the range of colors that they have in their watercolor ground. Okay. Wah! Now, besides watercolor, regular watercolor, I'm going to show you what I have here for regular watercolor that we're going to work with tonight. There's my box. And what I did was I pulled out 11 colors. I couldn't help myself because the yellow looking onion uses one set of colors, and then the purple onion, I had to throw in another color or two in order to make the purple onion work, in order to get the right reddish purple color. So right now, the plan is to work with these 11 Schminke colors, and I'm going to show you when we go over the table some of the color mixing that I did. I've already done it, but I'm just going to show you some of when I start to tackle a subject, what I do. as I sit there and I color mix various colors to see, ooh, okay, what combinations of colors am I going to need for this particular project? And that's how I determined that these were the tube colors that I wanted. Now, you absolutely could use a like the Van Gogh pocket box that I've been showing y'all. You can definitely use that type of paint as well that comes in the little pans. But again, you just have to test it. You have to test the colors to be sure that you're going to get what you're looking for. Now, what I did this week, I bought a new palette because I've been using this one, which is the Corel palette or the Corel dish. But I was like, you know what? There's a lot of area here that's kind of wasted. I'm only able to mix color in the center area right here. So what I did was this is a kitchen or a bathroom, what they call a ceramic tray. Isn't that fun? So it's not very expensive. I mean, it's not the same as the cost of a plastic one, but it is. It doesn't have the name of an artist palette, so they're not charging you a premium. You know what I mean? And this is an 8 incher. And then they also have the 10 inchers. So I'm going to get myself one of the 10 inchers, which is just 2 inches longer. This is the 8 inch. So when you have a 8.5 or 9 by 12, 8.5 by 11 or 9 by 12 paper in front of you, this 8 inch size works really well next to that. But the 10 inch would work well too. And what I've done is put my watercolor paints. So these same ones that you see in the tubes here, this is what I did was I just squeezed a little bit out onto here and then do all my color mixing. So I'm going to show you that today. So much fun. But if you already have your paint squeezed into those little pans, half pans or full pans, you can use those as well. But you are going to need some sort of mixing tray because you need a way to mix up the color that you want to work with. I almost never take the color straight from the pan or straight from the tube and use it just the way it is. I'm always mixing everything together. Now, besides watercolor, another type of paint that you can use on these surfaces is something called gouache. So I love this set for somebody who is starting out with gouache. It's an excellent quality for a student artist. There are other brands like the Holbein brand and the Winsor Newton brand of designer gouache. They're way more expensive, right? So if you want to try gouache out, and gouache is just opaque watercolor. So it's water soluble and it's rewettable, just like watercolor. The difference is that the colors are opaque. So this one from Pebeo, this set of 12, and I think they also have a set of 18 or 24, very reasonably priced for a lot of paint in here. And so, yes, you can also use gouache on these surfaces that I showed you, just the same as you can use watercolor. And what some people do is they'll use the transparency of the watercolor in order to put in their underlayers, those beginning layers, and then they will move on to putting gouache on top in certain areas because this is opaque. So they can be used interchangeably, the watercolor and the gouache. The only thing is, if you try to put watercolor on top of gouache, you end up with sort of a milky looking paint because you've got the translucency and the opaqueness sort of blending together. And it's just something to experiment with to see if you like it or not. Now, this is the re-wettable gouache. Some people don't like the fact that paint re-wets. They want a paint that gives them the look of gouache, but they don't want the paint to re-wet. They want to put it on a layer, have that dry, and then put another layer on top and not have the underlayer come back up, right? And so there is an acrylic gouache. It has the same properties, that opaqueness, and it looks like gouache, but it has an acrylic binder in it. And these will dry, and they're permanent once they're dry. and then you can go back over top of it. So this would be an example, this Turner acrylic gouache, and also um, I'd say this one, the Turner acrylic gouache, let me see what they call it. Yeah, acrylic gouache is the more beginner friendly in terms of the price and the way you use it. And then Holbein again has absolutely gorgeous, gorgeous acrylic gouache as well, but it's frightfully expensive. Okay. So, whatever level you're on, um, those are some ideas for you. Okay. So, let me see if I need to show you anything else, and then we will get started over top of the table. I'm just looking to see, are there any questions about the mediums? Okay, I don't see any questions asking about those mediums. So I hope that I was clear on how those work. Now, if you haven't already, if you're not on my, oh, you know what? Dang it. I sent the email today, but I forgot to send out an email with the images. I took images of these onions for you if you wanted to paint along. But let me show you this. If you go to my website, so right here, deetsart, deetsart.com, you type that in, it'll switch to deetsart.gallery. And when you go to my website, if you go under the events tab, so you might have to go to the menu and then hit events, the event for this show has photographs for you, reference photos of these onions. Okay. So you can go there to deetsart.com. So that's like the word diet, DIETZART.com. You can go there and grab one of the pictures if you want to paint along. Okay. That's where you can get it. Usually I would email it to you, and I got the email out about the workshop, but I forgot to send an email with the reference photos. Oh, there's always so much to do, right? Oh, we are going to be using watercolor brushes today. And so the ones I find I keep reaching for lately are these Famui brushes. This is the synthetic squirrel hair. So you can see here. They have a nice point on them. Um, some of the other brushes we used the other day were brushes that look like this. They're called quill brushes. So any kind of watercolor brush like that, right? This is another one. It has a little bit of a fluffier top. This is a sable or a synthetic sable right here. So brushes like that will work to almost any watercolor type brush, because we're going to be very loose with what we're doing. Okay. I'm not doing, like I said, I'm not interested in realism for this project. We are just going to slap down some paint and have some fun. We're going to start on, um, we're going to start on this, which is a canvas that I have put to, remember it came already gessoed. It already had the primer on it when I purchased it, the stretch canvas. So I put 2 coats of the Daniel Smith clear primer on it, or a watercolor ground. And when you do that, one more detail about that is, hey, Jill, welcome in, welcome in. You need to leave this to dry. Daniel Smith recommends that you leave it to dry after your final coat for 24 hours. Okay. So this has been left for 2 days to be sure it's nice and crispy and ready to receive our watercolors. So let me, I'm looking to see. Oh, okay, before we go over top of the table, this is some of the color experimentation I was doing. And this is just I love this notebook, y'all. I've shown it before, but let me show it to you here. This is the US Art Supply, is the name of the company, and it's their watercolor, like their little spiral bound watercolor journal, right? The cool thing is they come in a pack of 3 for like 20 bucks. It's amazing. It's a great deal, because there are a lot of pages in here. How many? How many? 30 sheets in each one. And as you can see, I use the front and the back. So I get a lot of use out of these, and it's a very economical price. 140 pounds watercolor paper. Now, it is not 100% cotton, but it doesn't matter when I'm doing color experimentations before moving on to my other surfaces, right? So this one, the US Art Supply watercolor spiral bound notebooks, fantastic. So I was sitting there experimenting with the different colors for these onions, right? So you can see sort of the onion skin feel right here. That's how I determine what colors I want to use in my project. And then these were some of the greens that I wanted to see, like, what do the greens look like, right? With some of the different colors. And so that's how I determined what colors I was going to select for this project. Let me see, I'm just looking to see if there was anything else in there. Nope, that's what I'll be referring to in order to make my decisions as to what colors are going to go on there. Um, of course, you're going to need to have at least 2 containers of water, okay? Because I'm always going back and forth with the water. And actually, with this one, since I'm working, this is a 9 by 12 canvas. So at that size, I'm going to start out with bigger brushes, and then we'll move into the more detail brushes as we need to. Welcome in, everybody, over on Whatnot. I see some new folks popping in. I'm teaching a watercolor painting class right now. And we are just getting ready to go over top of the table and get started with that. So hold on just a moment. I'm just moving a few things around so I have plenty of room here. Ah, look, they're like in the way. This is the most gorgeous one right here. I just love that. That is nuts. And then all this beautifulness right here. Ah, now y'all are going to want to run to your onion and potato cabinet, right? And see if any of yours have started to sprout. Watching live art is therapeutic. Oh, thank you, Jesse. I appreciate that. Appreciate it. Appreciate it. Yeah, we're just getting ready to go over top of the table now and get started. If you weren't here earlier, Jesse, the I took pictures of these onions that had started to grow in my pantry. I love the look of the root system, the filminess here, the green coming out. And so I snapped a bunch of pictures of that, and you can find it on my website right here, Dietz Art, right there, dietzart.com, right there. If you go there, and you go under the events tab, because we've already started, it may be under the prior events tab. But if you click on the event for this onion painting, right, in watercolor, um, it will show you in that event pictures of the onions. So if you want to print them off for either tonight or another time in order to kind of follow along with the video will be saved on YouTube. So you can always go back to it on my channel, which is Tristina Dietz Elms Artist. All you have to do is type in Tristina, an artist, and you'll find me on YouTube. And then under the live tab, you'll be able to find these videos. Also, in the description of the video on YouTube, um, later tonight after the show, I go back in and I type in all of the goodies that we use, the paint colors and the brushes and the surfaces and the mediums, like this transparent watercolor ground that I prepared my canvas with. All of those will be linked in the description of the video on YouTube for you to go back and reference anytime. All right, I'm going to take us up over top of the table. So remember that you're going to need 2 water containers. So these are those click and go cups from Faber-Castell. Love these. And when there's no water in it, you just push it down like this, and then it's just flat and it's so easy to travel with too. I love these. Okay, but I'm going to put them off to the side because I've got to put my colors out here. So let me see what you're seeing. Ah, my onions, they're getting in the way, aren't they? But I am putting one right in front of me here so that I can see what is it that I'm painting today. Okay, here we go. So there is the paint. Just want to make sure that you can see that. Let's see. Yes, you are seeing it. Awesome. And then the water here. Nice. And you can kind of see the onions a little bit. Uh, now, these are the colors that I'm working with. I'll just go over them so you know. This is the Schmincke watercolors. These are a professional grade of watercolor, but of course you could use Winsor Newton Cotman, which is a student grade. There are lots of different brands of watercolors out there. Now, one of the things about watercolor that's really helpful to know is that um, even though they might have their own names for the colors, so the different companies have different names oftentimes for the same color, you can tell somewhat if it's the same color or not by what is the color code that's on there. So this is Schmincke's transparent sienna. That's what it's called, transparent sienna. But when I look on the side here, it says that the color is PR101. So there is a database out there, and I'll put a link to the database in the description of the video on YouTube. There is a database that tells you what is PR101, and it also shows you for the different brands of paint what they call it. Because here Schminke calls it transparent sienna, but most companies just call it um, burnt sienna. And some companies call it transparent red oxide. So there are different ways that companies name their colors, but it is important to know, well, what pigment is in there. Now, just knowing what pigment is in there doesn't necessarily mean that you know exactly what the color is going to look like when you put it out, because um, there are different treatments that they do, these manufacturers, to those raw materials. Some are darker, some are lighter, some are more orange, more red, more blue. So they may not be exactly the same from brand to brand, even though they say they have the same pigment in them, because it just depends on how they treated that pigment when they put it into their paint. Okay. Um, but this one then is the transparent sienna from uh, Schminke, but I call it, or it might be called burnt sienna from somebody else. But it is good to know that it's transparent. And on a label, oftentimes, if you have a professional quality paint, it's going to show you right here. So there's a little triangle and a little square. The triangle is half dark, half light. That means it's partially staining, because for Schminke, that little triangle means, does it stain or does it not stain your paper? And then the little block there is all white. That means it's a transparent color. So there's good information on the label. It also, this particular one has 5 stars, and that means it has excellent light fastness. The paint color will stay vibrant for 100 years or more under museum conditions. That's what that means. So, especially if you're going to sell your work, it's good to know if the paint you're using is light fast or not. So I am going to need to put a little bit more of that in there. I also am going to need, ooh, this is a new color that I picked out that I'm going to use. It's called gold brown. And let's see what pigments are in it. It's PY65. That's a yellow. P stands for pigment. Y stands for yellow. So PR is pigment red. PB is pigment blue. Uh, PG is pigment green. And PBR is pigment brown. So this has PBR 41 and PY 65 in it. Um, it's a beautiful golden brown. So I'm going to put some of that on there. And let me see here. I have, this color is called quinacridone gold. So I've got some quinacridone gold. This is a dark, dark, dark green. So this is a kind of a goldy, like you, if you look at this, there's a lot of that sort of gold yellow in there, right? And so this color right here, which is quinacridone gold, is has that look to it. All right. And then this gold brown, I need to put some of this out here. Phew. Now, the interesting thing about the gold brown color here is that it is semi opaque. So there's the little square there, has a line through it. Half of it is black, half of it is white. What that means is this paint is semi opaque. It's not fully transparent, it's not fully opaque. So that's good to know. And let's see, we've got plenty of quinacridone gold. Then this one is called mahogany brown. And if you know anything about looking at mahogany wood, you know it has a slight redness to it, right? Just a slight redness. And so they've aptly named this mahogany brown. It has, and it's PBR33. So it's a single pigment, PBR33. And has a little bit, let me bring it up for you so you can see. It has a little bit, can you see the little bit of red undertone right there? Little bit of red undertone. It's brown, but it's with a red undertone. So let's put just a little bit more of this out here. So this is just a ceramic plate. If you weren't here earlier, it's a ceramic tray that is categorized in like the kitchen or bathroom area when you're looking. And then the transparent sienna, which would be like a burnt sienna. And we're going to put a little bit more of it out here because I used a lot of it doing the other paintings. There we go. Very, very, very useful color, y'all. This transparent sienna or burnt sienna. If it's transparent, you want the transparent version of it, okay? And I know it's transparent because on the side here, the little block is clear. So here I have this color is called, what a versatile color, y'all. This is called yellow orange. Yellow orange. Let's see what pigments are in it. It's a single pigment, PY110. Very versatile pigment. I'm finding it works with so many different things. Yellow orange. Okay, that's for the yellows and the browns. Then, in terms of the greens, this one is called May Green, and it's super bright. It's a beautiful bright green. So that would be like for young, the young parts of that coming up. And let's put just a little bit more of it out there because I'll be using a lot of that. But this one's called May Green, and it has PY151, that's a yellow, and PG7, that's a green. Okay. Then this is called Green Earth. So, and what's interesting here is, well, it's semi-transparent. It's a clear block with a little line through it, semi-transparent. It's a barely there color. Let me show you here. This is green earth right here. And this is green earth right here with a little bit more water. Do you see how there's barely any color to the green earth? Barely any. But sometimes you want barely any because when I put the green earth together with one of this yellow orange or the uh, which one is that? The quinacridone gold. You're going to get this beautiful, like glowy, light, 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 light greenish yellow right there. So sometimes a very, very light color can help you to get where you want to go. And especially when we're looking at onions and we've got that sort of translucent, filmy look to them. Let me go ahead and put some of this earth green out, but it's very light. And then we've got the permanent green olive. That's what's over here in this corner right here. It's a darker green. And it's oh, that's very interesting. It's a PO62. That's an orange. And then a PG7. So PG7 is what I use a lot for mixing green. But interesting that they put some PO62, some orange with it, and that really deepens the color. Um, Another color that I'm relying on a lot is this Bordeaux. So you see that beautiful, rich red color right there? It's a transparent naphthol red, PR187, PR187 right there, and they call it aptly Bordeaux. Amazing color, amazing color. And then right here next to that is something called Perylene Green. Perylene Green is one of my favorite dark greens. Like if you're doing a forest, pine trees, that kind of thing, you want this Perylene Green for that because it's like your darkest dark green. And that's what I have right here. And what I did was I combined Perylene Green and Bordeaux, and I got this great shadow color. Ugh, it's a good combination. So this very useful Perylene Green. And then the last color that's not on here yet is called, in their case, they're calling it Helio Cerulean. It's a cerulean green. Oh, that's interesting. They call it Helio Cerulean, but the pigment is PB 15:3. So that's just like a phthalo blue. Interesting. Okay. For the pigment, but there you go. This one we're not going to use yet because we're going to start with the green onion. And then when we go on the yellow background, we're going to do the purple onion. And I combine this burgundy together with this blue to get my purple. And I actually did that in a separate little tray. Where did I put the little tray? Because this was all messed up with the, oops, oh, so much for that. I put it in there and got some paint on it. Um, that's interesting. Where did I put it? Right here. So when I was painting, I had all these greens and yellows in here, but I needed to make a purple. So I just grabbed one of the, this is just one of those very cheapo plastic um, little palettes, and I mixed my purple in here. So I'll show you how I mix that purple when we get to that point. Let me just get this cleaned off since I'm getting green all over it right now. Yee, got to get that green earth off of there. Okay, cool. So we'll get back to this blue one a little bit later, but I'm going to put all these away for the moment. But now you know what colors we're using here with the, this has everything with the exception of the, that blue in there. Okay, so I just love this little piece of the skin. So we'll just keep that handy so I can paint that. Um, all right, let me make sure that we are in frame. Yep, we're good, we're good. Come on, y'all, let's get the salt off of there so I can move this up just a little bit more. There. Yee. Okay, nice. So since I've prepared this surface, this canvas with this transparent watercolor ground, now I can just paint on it with watercolor like I normally would. The difference is that unlike paper, you can very easily lift the color back up off of this because it's more like having an acrylic background because this is an acrylic emulsion than it is having a paper that the color soaks into. Okay. It gives just enough tooth for you to be able to do watercolor, but not so much that it's going to stain or lock in the way that it does on regular paper. So I'm just going to start. I'm going to create an outline with a smaller brush here. So this is a size what, 6, 8, size 8. So just a size 8. I like to do like a little outline first and then work within that outline. So let's the skin is gonna be kind of a light pink, oops, excuse me, kind of a light pinkish color, right? I mean, light yellow. So this is the yellow orange that I'm using right now, but I want to put with it, what do I want to put with it? I want to put just a little bit of this quinacridone gold just to warm it up a little bit. Nice. So it's not a lot, just a little bit of color, and they're a little I don't know where that came from. So I have to determine what direction I want this to go in. Do I want the green coming off this way or do I want the green coming off this way? Ah, choices, right? I think I'll have the onion facing in this direction, like this. There we go. And so now it's the onion is kind of on its side and then the greens are coming up. So we're going to do this relatively quickly because we're doing two tonight, one on the canvas and one on the wood. So here, what I'm doing is just kind of determining where is the onion? How far over do I want to take it? It kind of comes up and over like this. But I'm going to need to put a shadow around the bottom of it. So I may want to move it over just a little bit. There we go. So let's just, I'm not getting it all off, but I'm getting a lot of it off by doing that. But if I wanted to take some clean water, I could go in here and get all, if not the majority of it off. There we go. Which is different from paper, right, y'all? If I were doing it on paper, it might not, it might have left some of the line there. Okay, so I'm going to bring it over just a little bit more. And this comes up like this and then over this way. So now I have a little more room here to throw my shadow. Okay, so I'm just giving myself some guidelines here. And I've got the quinacridone gold and that yellow orange. So any sort of warm orange would work if you have azo yellow, or if you had a gamboge like this color right here is new gamboge. That also is a very warmish, orangish yellow. So here I'm just giving myself. Now what I'm seeing is that this canvas is a little bit dry, so I actually need to have a little more water in my brush in order to get it to come off the way I want it to. So I'm just starting out by giving myself these markers, like where's everything going to be? Okay, like that. And then I'm going to just do some of the greens so I get an idea of where I'm putting my. Now, because I have this in front of me, I can turn it this way for the orientation of the green, or I can turn it toward the back, whichever way I want to look at it, right? Because I've got the still life, I have the item right in front of me. So let's take some of the, for this bottom part, do you see how light the green is right here? It's almost a green yellow, and then it starts to get darker as it comes up. And then these are interesting because they have a little yellow tip to them. So I'm going to go with the light green, the May green, but I'm actually going to add some of this orange yellow to it for the part that just comes straight out here. So this is kind of going like this. So this is a like a almost like a green gold, right? But I'm just getting placement. I'm going to do all the detail on subsequent layers. I just need to decide where I'm putting things. Okay, same thing. It's a combo of the yellow orange, and there's another little one over here, like this coming out. Okay, there we go. So this one has two little sprouts coming out of it. All right, and then we're going to get just a little bit darker green. Nothing too crazy. I'm just doing my initial layers. And I actually want plenty of water because I don't want the color to go down too thickly at this point as I'm sort of deciding where I want things to go, right? Yee. Okay, I have to angle this a little bit so I can get it to look the way I want it to. We've got one part that comes sort of here. What I found interesting is that these don't really point so much at the end. They have a little bit of a rounded end to them. Okay, And then there's some more here. I'm going to kind of go, one of them comes up and actually goes out this way, round that tip a little bit, right? But you see, this it's very bright against this background because, of course, this background is white, isn't it? Oh, I can even bring that up a little bit more. So don't worry if you think this green is too yellow, because this is just giving me placement. Like, where am I putting things right now? Okay, this one's actually coming here. I'm going to be adding yellow to the ends of these, right? There's one there. A little bit of the yellow, orange, a little bit of the green. And then there's another big one that comes here and comes out even further. There we go. This is just to give yourself an idea, like, where am I putting everything? And then I can determine what's in front and what's behind as I'm working with my various colors. Okay. Eee, there's a little hair right there. I don't know where that came from, but anyway. Okay, we're getting that. And then here I've got some other ones that are going out this way. So let's do the same here. A little bit of that May green, a little bit of that yellow orange, and a little bit of water. So here we've got one that comes up and sort of goes like this. And then we've got another one that's a little more green coming right up through the center here and sort of going over this way. They're growing toward the light is what happens. Yeah, they grew toward the light. Okay. And then there's another one that sort of comes up back behind here, right? And then there's going to be another big one with a little bit of the darker in it, just for now, that sort of comes out of here and comes here, back behind here, like that. So this is just giving me some placement, not necessarily the finished piece. I'm just getting an idea of where I want things to go from the standpoint of composition. Now, if you look at this as a whole, to me, I'm like, oh my gosh, okay. See, it's a little too far over this way on the page, on this canvas. And so there's not enough of something going on over here, which means I'm going to take some artistic license and I'm going to make one of these go off even more in that direction because I need to balance this composition. And that's why we're just doing this very lightly right now and trying to figure that out. Okay, so I just want to, I'm going to bring it here and just sort of do that. So I've got another one that's just sort of coming out over here. There we go. That's okay. There, that's a little more balanced in terms of the composition. Okay. Uh, and that's just getting the basics down. And then once you get the basics down, you can start, of course, playing around and building. Like, see this right here? I think that's so cool. So I'm going to reach into that. Um, this was that gold brown. So the gold brown has a really nice color, but um, let me show you what it looks like just by itself. Remember how I said I like to mix things like crazy? So here's the gold brown by itself. Very pretty. That'll work really well with this, but I do want to lighten it up just a little bit, so I'm going to use some of this quinacridone gold right here to just lighten it just a little bit because I like to start lighter and then work myself darker. So I've got some of that coming right out here, right? So I've got a little bit of that sort of coming off the edge here. All right. And a little bit of this coming across here. Nice. So I just start out light and then I start building some of my darkers. So if I'm looking at this, I'm looking to see, ooh, where are my darker colors here? Where's the lightest light? Where's the darker dark? I love these little the little roots that start to grow out there. So down here we're going to have our darkest dark, and just up from there like this, we're going to have some of that uh, color that I already have on my brush. So I might as well start tying some of that in there, right? Tie some of that together. So I just get a little bit of the form before I start putting the little lines on it, right? Because I'm going to put some lines on it. A little bit more of that light brown that I made because I'm seeing that there's like a little bit more of this coming off this side where those are coming out. And then building just a little more of that darkness down there. And believe it or not, there's even some of the darkness over here. Okay, nice. And then uh, I'm going to get a little bit redder down here, right? Because you see how this is like a burnt, sort of a red brown right down there. Love that. And so now I'm going into that. Let me see what the color is called, mahogany brown. So I'm going into this mahogany brown because it's brown, but it has a little bit of a red undertone to it that I was telling you about. So we're going to drop a little bit of that into here, just into this area. It helps to have a still life, either a photograph or a piece in front of you so that you can sort of refer back to it, right? Now I'm being very loose and I'm not trying to be um, exactly to nature, so I'm not that worried about it, but I do want to throw a little bit of this in where I see it. Notice we haven't done the lines yet. We're going to get to the lines. So these are coming, they're sort of trailing over this way. And there's a little bit of a break right here where we start with it's a little bit sticking out, sort of right there. Okay, just loose. It's okay to be loose, y'all. It's just paint. It's not rocket science, I like to say. Okay, so we're beginning to develop that area right there. And then you'll find I move from an area to another area, this area to that area, because that gives this area a chance to dry. But if you wanted to stay in one particular area, which I know some people like to do, you can just pull out a heat tool, and it's okay. Remember, this is a stretched canvas, so it's not going to like curl up on us or anything. When you're working on paper, oftentimes if you use a heat gun or a heat tool of some sort, the paper curls, and then you're like, ah, it'll make you crazy. Um, but with a stretched canvas like this, that doesn't happen. Let's see. Ooh, that actually did really nicely. Okay, let's keep going with some. Ooh, I have to drink some water. Stay hydrated, y'all. Stay hydrated. Mm. I'm just looking to see what y'all see on YouTube, and it's like, I think I need to push this up just a little bit further. Y'all are okay on whatnot, but on YouTube, it looks like it's a little bit. There we go. Mm, okay. So I'm liking where it's going so far. Now I want to do a little bit of this right here. A little bit of those roots. I like the roots. So I usually for the roots will start with something like this. Which color is this? Not the mahogany brown, the brown gold. There we go. So the brown gold. Remember, we're just you're gonna layer. So this first layer is just kind of giving you an idea of where you want to put the little hairs here. And there's a little bit of a dark spot right in here. And then the little hairs come out from it. And you might be like, well, Tristina, but wait, the little those little roots are white. Yeah, but I'm working on a white background. So I can't leave the roots white because otherwise you won't be able to see them. I could put down a bunch of darkness in the background, a bunch of this color, and then come back with a white I've shown y'all before. Where's my favorite white? Come on. Nope, I don't see it like right at my hand, but eventually it'll show up. I like to use the bleed proof white from Dr. PH Martin's, and I did that last week with y'all. But here I'm just gonna put the little roots on as a different color. Okay. So what I want to show you is as uh, this mahogany brown dries, you see how it gets super soft right here? So it's just a light layer. It's okay. Just keep adding plenty of water to it. Um, if I thought that this brown was a little too much, I could add more water to it. Remember to use your paper towel and you can pick up some of that color if you feel like it's too much. And that gives me a more organic edge, and I like that. Okay, I do a lot of dabbing. So see how it gives you more of an organic edge right there? I like that. I like that a lot. Okay. So, and I love that color for that's the gold brown. So let's see where else we can put that gold brown. We're going to put a little bit more of the gold brown in here, drop some more of that in here. All right. Not too much though, just a hint. So put it on, take it off, put it on, take it off. Okay, I took too much of it off. All right. But there's a lot of it coming from this area right here. Just sort of this fluff in the back end. So I'm actually putting it over top of some of the areas where I put that burgundy. Nice, nice. I like where it's going. Let's get a little more layer here. Now this color will pick up. So if you spend too much time in an area um, futzing around with the color, it'll lift the color right back out just like it does on any watercolor paper. Okay. So that's definitely something to keep your eye on. All right. Let me let's see. Where are we going? Where are we going here, onion? Huh? Where are we going? Are we ready for lines yet? Let's try some lines. So now I'm going to go back in. Here I'm going to use this transparent sienna. So the siennas are a little bit like terracotta. They have a little, they kind of have a little orange, a little red in them. And let's just start building some. I'm going to hold this and see where the lines here go. Can you see the lines on the onion there? And that really helps to define that, oh, this is an onion. Okay, let me turn that. And what we've got is we've got some of this that sort of comes down. And then you see how I'm not touching the whole way. See how the line is broken? I've got it not a perfect straight line. So that is what I like to do in order to just give you the impression of the lines without being too literal. You don't have to be too literal. And this is a beautiful brush, this 8. This is the Famui imitation squirrel, but it comes to a really nice point. I like these. imitation brushes for the points that they give you. Okay, and I'm giving the impression of the roundness of this onion by going in a curve, right? I'm curving it. There we go. So now you're getting a feel for the curvature of the onion. I needed just a little bit more water. And then, yep, we're coming here and sort of here. And now this is going to start to kind of at this end, and we're going to start to go the opposite direction, right? This end we went in this direction, and the top we're going to go in this direction. So we've got this sort of comes out here and comes back in. And the color I'm using right now is that transparent, or what you might call burnt sienna. It's a transparent sienna. Just lightly. I don't want to overpower it. Okay. So, oh, look, we have an onion. Now, if you felt that the lines were a little too dark while it's still damp, or this is a damp paper towel, you can go in and touch it like this. And what's going to happen is it's going to pick some of that paint up, and then it's not going to have. I like the organicness of it where it's sort of, okay, some of it's there and some of it got picked up. So now it's just that little bit less. You see how you get a little bit less there? Perfect. And I can build more layers on top of that, and then I might have to come back in and add those lines back in again and again and again, which is fine. It's okay, right? I want to take a little bit of this earth green, which is like just the barely, barely, barely there green. And I can see looking at the actual onion that right in this area near where the green is, it has like a green tint because the light's shining on it. So I'm just dropping in a little bit of that green right there, just to sort of give it that tint of green right there where those are coming out. And then, uh, let's see, where do we want to go next? I'm kind of happy with the onion, y'all. Kind of happy. Let me take just a little bit more of this raw sienna or burnt sienna, sorry. And this little piece that's sticking out here, I want to put like a little line or two on here so you can sort of see that it's also these little pieces that are coming off also have a little bit of the lines on them. Okay, cool. And then I'm going to work on the roots just a tiny bit more. So what I used before was this green gold, and now I'm going to use a little bit of the mahogany on there. Just a little bit, lots of water, just to sort of put a little bit more in because the bottom part of those little roots is going to be darker, right? So I'm not going all the way out. I'm just putting a little bit darker down at the bottom. There we go. Just darkening the bottom a little bit. Nice. And bring it up like this just a little bit. Just to sort of give it the feel of depth right there. Where else do we need shadows? Because it's looking very light right now. There's a lot of lightness there. Where do we want more shadow? More shadow. Of course, down here, there's a little bit more shadow down underneath there. So let me get a little bit more of this quinacridone gold and just sort of layer it. Maybe I'll grab a little bit of that brown gold that I had on there. And now I'm going to quickly just sort of do this like that to put shadows in because I don't want to mess up those lines that I put in too much. I mean, it's okay if it messes it up just a little bit, but oop, not brown enough. Okay. Adding a little bit of the one of the other ones there. Okay. So that's just giving another layer to it so that it it has a little more darker here than it is over there, right? And I want just a little bit more of that up around here because we've got these. We're going to throw a little bit of a shadow on there, right? The area that's the lightest is right in here and right in here. When I'm looking at it, let's just get this a little bit more. Okay. So I would say, oh, thank you, Chelsea. What is it, Chelsea Kate? Thanks for sharing. I appreciate it. Um, the nice thing about watercolor is you can always come back the next day. So I can let this marinate overnight and then look at it in the morning with fresh eyes and go, oh, I need to darken this a little bit more. I need to lighten that a little bit more, right? That's the beautiful thing about watercolor. Until I put wax on it to lock it in place, I can just come back and keep working on it. It's a beautiful thing. So let's look. There's a little bit more of this darker reddish color down in here. So right now there's not very much definition in here. Let's add a little more definition. Let's see. If you look right in here, there's sort of a ring of that red brown in there. So let's get a little bit of the mahogany and mix it with a little bit of the gold brown and sort of darken this just a little bit more. So you can sort of feel the way that it is a little bit darker underneath there. If it's too dark for you, just grab your cloth and just say, okay, I want to pick a little bit of that up. I'm constantly like adding, subtracting, adding, subtracting. Okay, well, that works for me right now. We'll let that dry. It'll help give you dimension between the darks and the lights. Let's go ahead and go back up into the green here. And now we can start looking at where's our lightest lights and our darkest darks. How do we want to build our colors? So I'm actually going to use a light green again. And I'm going to come in here and just sort of bring that down in there. Now also these have little, at the base of these, there are these interesting little lines right here. So I'm sort of building those little lines in there too. It's just a little detail. You don't have to add that, but I sort of want to give the feel of that. Okay, a little bit more into the green. Now I haven't started with the dark green yet, but here, this one I'm going to put behind what's in front of the here. So I'm just going to do this and sort of bring it this way. Okay, cool. It's that one. And then these three are darker. So this is the time when I'm going to go into the permanent green olive. What does it have in it? Oh, this is the one with the PO62, which is an orange, and PG7. That's this dark one up here. So I'm going to start merging this light green in with that dark green to begin to get some darker colors here. And you don't have to cover the whole thing with the darker color either. You can just do part of it, give it a little more dimension. Okay, and then this one, I want to be really dark, the one on the front here. Yee. If it's too dark, don't worry. You can always just come in with a little bit of water and fix it. Okay? It's okay. You are a-okay. See? That's why it's important to have a paper towel on hand, right? There we go. So there's this one right here. Yeah, that dark green helps a lot. Then I actually want to bring a little bit of darkness right here so that It gives that a little bit of dimension right there. It looks like it's light on top and dark underneath, right? So you start to get some dimension there. This one over here, I want to bring a bunch more of that dark in. So what if I just do part of it dark and I leave the other part sort of light? There we go. Okay. Now remember at the tops of these, I want to add a little bit of yellow because not all of them, but most of them have like a very light tip to them right here. So I'm just going to add a little bit of yellow to that. So that's this yellow orange right here. I'm just going to mix it with a tiny bit of that green. And then I'm just going to put that at the top, the tips of these. And the tip is just slightly rounded. It's not so much pointed. Okay. So that you can see that it's new growth heading out there, right? The same here with this one. There we go. So for now, for what we're going to do, I would say that particular part is done. Of course, I would come back to it and come back to it and come back to it when I'm doing my actual paintings, but we're trying to move along, right? Let's do these a little bit more over here. So it helps to have your dark green and you kind of mix it with a little bit of the light green. I try to go in layers. So I put down the lighter color or a mid-tone color and then get a little bit darker and then get a little bit darker. Let's do this one out here. There we go. And it's going to come in like this. It helps to have a brush with a snappy tip, right? You want a snappy tip on there. Okay, it's coming down in there. And then let's get a little bit darker here. It helps to have the photograph or the actual um, item in front of you so you can look at it and kind of get a feel for how these go over each other, right? Let's do this out here and bring it down here. There you go. And this needs to be a little bit thicker right here. Nice. I don't mind that this one in the back is just a little bit lighter. So I'm just going to go in with a little bit lighter color there. Slightly lighter. Now I can see I would need to let it dry and sort of evaluate, where my darkest darks and um, my lighter versions. Okay, let's just put this one a little bit more. Just go down here a little bit more and see what happens. Okay, I'm going to do the yellow on the tips right now. A little bit of yellow, a little bit of green. Hey there, Danielle Loon. Welcome in, welcome in. I'm doing a watercolor lesson right now. Then I will have an auction at the end of the show. There we go. And we're doing watercolor onions. I'm adding that little bit of yellow at the end, yellow green, because these are young shoots, and so they have that sort of yellow green tip to them. This one, the yellow green is facing away, so we don't need very much there. And then up here, just that little bit of yellow green coming in the end. Okay, so in the studio, I would sit there and I would work and build, and I need more here. I need more separation between these. So I would work on form and shape and dimension with more darks, maybe lifting some to get more lights like that. Down here, I would work on deepening some areas, um, and leaving these other areas very light. Okay. So the last thing I'm going to show you, though, that I'm going to pop in here is a shadow of some sort. So we have a shadow over here in this area. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to mix a dark. So with the burgundy here, I can go with burgundy. I can do a little bit of the gold brown because that's a color that I've used inside here. Now I can either pick up this green over here because red and green are opposite each other on the color wheel, right? So if I mix them together, I'm going to get a dark color. So let me show you here. So that was this burgundy with a little of the gold brown and then that dark green right there. And I've got a nice shadow color, right? Because red and green are opposite each other on the color wheel. So you'll get when you blend together opposites on the color wheel, you get neutrals. It's called neutralizing the color, but that gives you beautiful grays and dark colors that you can then use in your artwork. So let's assume that we've got like a shadow coming over this way. Usually the shadow is darkest right up next to the onion or the item, and then it comes around here like this. Okay. So because this is treated canvas, I can work back in here very easily and lift some of this off. So if it was like too dark, it wasn't quite right, maybe the color wasn't even right, I could just lift that a bunch of it back off. You see how easy that is on these prepared surfaces? It's awesome. I like that because it makes it very soft. It looks super soft. And I can go back in then with the dark. Now, uh, let me get a little bit more of that green to go in there with that and a little more of the burgundy so I can neutralize the colors. There we go. And it's going to be darkest right near where it's right here, right at the bottom edge, right? So I usually will drop in a shadow and then make the shadow a little bit light and then come back in and darken the area right next to it like that. And you can always go back later and add in more shadowing if you need to. That's easy peasy, right? Let's do this just a little bit more here. Like don't make yourself too crazy. We are painting for fun. At least I am anyway here. Okay, so I'm happy. Is you want to anchor your onion to your surface, and when you put it on the table you can look. It's better if you have a light source going one direction or another. So for me, for the most part, the light's coming from over here. So right here underneath my hand I have a very very dark shadow right where it's touching, um, where that touches the surface of my hand. And so that's why you want to put that deep, deep dark right next to where it's actually touching the surface to give the feel that it's touching the surface, right? Okay. So what I will do tomorrow or the next day is I'll go in and you see this little piece right here. I'm going to paint that little piece like over here. That'll help balance the painting out because I mean, I like where it's going right now. I like it. And I would probably pull this shadow out a little bit more so that it has a feel. You see how you can just melt that edge away on on this canvas because you've got this medium on there. So the medium really helps you to lift the paint a lot easier than if you were on paper, a lot easier to soften those edges. Um, but you can play around with that. If I don't like it, I can come back in with a little bit of paper towel, lift it up a little bit. So it really gives you quite a bit of flexibility if you've got the medium on your surface. Ah, a little bit of green just got on there. So let me fix that real quick while I'm thinking of it. I'm going into some fresh water to get that little bit of green off of there. But it'll come right up because it's on as long as I have fresh paper towel here, um, because it's on the medium. So the medium acts like a supersizing and really lets you manipulate the watercolor. It's awesome. Awesome. Okay. So that is, I'm going to get a new paper towel because look at this one soaked. Soaked. Um, but do you see what I mean by balancing it? I could just leave it like that, or I could paint this little piece sitting like right over here, and that might balance it more. I don't know. But if I did the outline of it and I didn't like it, then because this is the canvas treated with the Daniel Smith watercolor ground, I could just scrub it all off. It's awesome. I love that effect. Okay. So we are going to call this one done for right now. Of course, I would go back in and add the more. This needs a lot more work to put in the darkest darts and then have those um, against the lightest lights, right? But now we're going to use this one, this surface. This is a canvas board by Blick, and I tinted the Daniel Smith transparent watercolor ground. So this board from Blick already had gesso on it. It already had the white, right, in the background. And so I just took some of my new Gamboge, which is a Daniel Smith watercolor, and I just took a little bit of it and I put it in with the transparent. I mixed it on a palette and then I applied it to the gessoed board. And then I decided it was like really patchy, really light areas. So I sanded it just a little bit with a little piece of sandpaper. Let me see if I have my sandpaper here. Yep. So I don't even know. I think this is a 400, but I sanded that first layer just gently. And then I went in with a second layer and that deepened that yellow. And I really like where that is right now. I like the depth of that. And so let's see, I'm going to turn it this way and let's do the purple onion. That's why I wanted to do this color because purple is the opposite on the color wheel of yellow. And so that'll really make it stand out. Um, And I can use the same techniques that I just did, for this one, just pretend that it's a purple red one instead of it being a yellow one, right? Now, in order to lay out the purple one on here, I need to get my purple color. So how did I make my purple color for my purple onion? Let me show you the purple onion that I already painted. This is on paper. And so there's the purple onion. So I want this beautiful purple color. How the heck did I get that, right? I use the burgundy because that burgundy is like too pinky red. Look at this. See how pinky red that burgundy is right there? It's too toward the pink. So I have to darken it a little bit with a blue. And that's what I did with this one. So I've got a bunch of it in here. Let me just switch these waters around because I want to start working with the one that's doesn't have all the yellow in it right now. So let me show you what I did. I took a little bit of the burgundy here. So let's put a little bit of I'm sorry, Bordeaux. The color is called Bordeaux. So I put a little bit of the Bordeaux out here. I want to make sure I have enough of the color um, to do the whole onion and have a little bit left over so I can come back to it the next day if I want to. So that's the Bordeaux. And then I used a blue with it. So whatever blue you have, you can get varying degrees of purple. So let me put this over here, a little bit of the blue. But I don't want equal amounts of blue and red because I want the purple to look like a red purple. I don't want it to look like a blue purple because purples can tend toward blue or they can tend toward red. So let's mix a little bit of this and get it to look like a blue purple. Let me show you what I mean. So this is a blue purple. So you see how it's a purple, but it has a blue look to it? We don't want that. We want a purple that has a red look to it. So this is what I had mixed earlier. Let me see if it's still showing up right. Let me get a paper towel. Oops. Ah, oh, they're right there, right next to me. That's why I had already pulled it off to get one. Okay. So this is what I had mixed for that other one so that I can show you a red purple, something that's going to lean more red. Still a purple, but this is a blue purple and this is a red purple. You see that? So some companies they don't even call this purple. They call this purple, something that's a little more toward the red. And they might call this mauve, something like that. Okay. But what we're aiming for is we're aiming for that redder purple. So let me put some of the blue in here, some more blue. And now it's really blue. And then I'm going to take a bunch of that Bordeaux. Okay, nice. Now we've got an actual like purple purple, middle purple. This is oh, I know what this purple's called. Aubergine. Aubergine is eggplant. So you see that? That's where I am right now. I'm at eggplant, which is like a middle of the road purple, and I want it to be a little bit more red. So I'm going to add a little bit more red to it until I get the red purple. There we go. Bink. So now I've got a bunch of red purple. Let me go like this. Bunch more water. Mm, even that's a little bit too dark. So let's add a little bit more of the red. There we go. Now I think now I think you're talking. Make sure we have plenty of water. Yeah, okay. Now this is what the onions look like. I need lots of water with it. Okay. So now I show you. There we go. So that's a little more on the red purple side, right? That's what we're looking for. I'm going to add some more water because it's a little bit heavy, a little bit dense. Now there's still that blue sitting here. I have to be careful with that. Let me see if I can take that off of there. Eeh, I'm just looking for a little paddle or something. I have this silicone tool right here. So I'm going to take this blue. I don't want it to sit right there because if it infects that, it's going to turn it way darker. So I'm just using the silicone tool and putting this extra blue over here. I don't want to waste it, but I don't want it getting mixed up into the color I already mixed. So like I said, this is a silicone topped tool, right? And so I can just pick it right up like that. Nice. Okay, good. Got most of it out. The nice thing about the silicone tools is bam, you just rinse it and wipe it and all the color's gone. It's a miracle. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to mix that tiny bit of blue in there just so that this whole whole center area is, oh, red onion. There you go. That's what it looks like. So let's go ahead and take this yellow right here. Oh, it's going to look so good against here. Let's take this and I want plenty of water. Right now, what I'm doing is I'm just laying in the onion, right? I'm positioning the onion. So maybe let me position this onion over here. So I'm adding lots of water to the brush. Where's my paper towel? Uh-oh, I think it fell down. Hold on. Oh, it's underneath here. I can't do anything without the paper towel in my hand. That's just the way it is. Okay. So sometimes you have to wick some of the water off because you don't want it to be too aggressive. So bloop, 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 wick, wick, wick. All right. Where do we want this one? We're going to put this one here. Kind of like here. I'm just putting a little bit of it out. And we're on that beautiful surface again so that we can, if we don't like the color, we can use some water and scrub it out if we want to. It's awesome. Okay, we'll bring this over this way a little bit more, and maybe some of it is coming up like this. I'm adding more water because I just need it to be very wishy-washy. We can darken it as we go, right? Okay, cool. So we have an onion. I don't want it to be too dark because I want to be able to come in and put dark lines on it, right? So I'm lifting a little bit more of the color out. And the cool thing is with this sort of yellow in the background, you see how it's making it look a little bit brown? Because let me show you what happens when you put yellow and purple together. Hold on. Where's my little notebook? Here's my notebook. So because purple and yellow, love your art demonstration. Thank you, Stay Home to Shop. I appreciate it. We're working on, I used if you didn't see earlier, I'm using a transparent watercolor ground from Daniel Smith on top of canvas so that you can turn the canvas into a watercolor surface to be able to paint watercolor on it. Oops. Okay. Let me get a clean brush. I'm getting purple up here and I don't want that. The nice thing is, since it has the watercolor ground on it, I can scrub it and take everything back off. It's amazing. Amazing. It's not like paper where your color is going to go down into it. Okay, so what I was going to show you is that here, if you take a yellow, so let me grab a yellow. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Stay Home to Shop said, such a good product, and I love your practical ideas or advice. Thank you. So I've got a little bit of I'm trying to get a little bit of the yellow here so I can show you. So if we take some yellow and we combine it with some purple, yee, what'll happen is we'll get brown. So this is yellow and purple, and you see what happens? That's how I mix skin tones a lot, is I use purples, like this red leaning purple and yellow, and then I get various types of skin tones. Um, so that's why right now, as this reddish purple is drying, it's beginning to look brown on the surface. But that's okay. We'll just build up layers of this aubergine. So here's some more of the aubergine. We're going to bring this in here and a little bit more in here. Oop, there's a little, I picked up a little funny hair. It wasn't from the brush, it was something else. So you'll just have to build some layers in order for it to keep the purpley look to it. Okay, and I'm doing my brush strokes so that I'm bearing in mind the roundness of it. Okay, so right now, let me bring this up just a little. I'm going to add a little bit of water. And again, I'm creating like a little edge where that green is going to be coming from, right? Okay. And then I want to put in a little bit of the roots, and I'm going to use that. Um, mahogany brown because it has what? A little bit of a red undertone to it. So right now I'm just making it up. I'm making it up because I already know what an onion looks like. We've already practiced it, right? I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna make this up. I'm just gonna put some roots coming out here. Just sort of skipping my brush around kind of the way that the roots sort of go everywhere, don't they? There we go. But at least you get a feel for, oh, this is an onion and there are some roots coming off of it. Nice. Let's just do this. Now, I want to darken this area right at the bottom here. So I'm actually going to take some of this is the gold brown, and I'm going to put some of the gold brown right here at the bottom, right where those roots would be coming out. And that just sort of gives it that brown look to it, which is okay. It's okay to have it brown on top of the purple. There we go. And we can always darken that as we go too. That's just the first layer of roots. Plus, because this background is yellow, onions are the only produce that a futures are not allowed. Oh, that's cool. Stay home to shop said onions are the only produce that a futures market is not allowed to, I guess, trade due to a historical mishap. Oh, interesting. We'll have to look that up and see what that mishap was. Okay, so right now it's looking very brown because this purple we put on in a sort of a transparent way, but that's okay. We'll darken it. We'll make it more purple as we go. Let's do some of the green up here. So we're going to do some of that orange yellow and put in the the bottom section here, right next to the purple, and just begin to build that in there. And it's at first it's going to look kind of subtle because I've got uh, the orange yellow, and that's almost the same color as the background. But that's okay. We're going to use some green in with it. So right now, can you see how it's almost the same as the background? But that's okay. We're going to add some green. I just wanted to sort of give myself an area, like where am I going to start this? So I'm bringing in a little bit of light green right now on top of the yellow. There we go. And that's that bottom section that's coming right out of there. You can always darken it later. As a matter of fact, I probably want to give myself a little bit of darker green right at the base right here. Pop that in just to give it a little bit of a darker color. Tap, tap, tap. Tapping it just to get that in there, right along there. Okay, there we go. So we've got a little bit of the darker. All right, then we're going to have some of that May green, which is like a light green, and the light green is the young shoots, right? And so we're going to come up out of here. We have to decide how we want them to go. Some are going to go this way, and some are going to go this way. So I guess this one right here, we want to have some come up this way and bring it down like that. Nice. And then there's another one is going to come up and over this way and back behind it like that. I don't want them all at the same level, so I'm going to vary the level of where they are. But the nice thing is I've got this whole 8 by 10 canvas to work on, right? There we go, like that. Ew, like that. Okay. And if paint gets where you don't want it while it's still wet, it's best if you pick it up while it's still wet, but you don't have to. You can always go back later and fix it. That's the beautiful thing of working on this canvas. Okay, and then I want one more little one that's going to sort of come out this way. So I want it here, and I want it just coming out like that. So somehow it's sort of coming from behind there. And a little bit more, a little thicker. There we go. Remember, you can always adjust this. Always adjust. That's the nice thing about this surface. So there we go. Ah, for some reason, I keep wanting to bring it down lower, and I don't know why. But with a paper towel, see, the nice thing is because the background is tinted and the background has acrylic in it, I can scrub on this green to get the green out, and the yellow that's part of the background is not going to come up. And that is so cool. That is so cool. Okay, there we go. Similar to that. So I'm going very lightly. I just want to get my initial using the light green. This is called May green from Schminke. So I'm using the light green so I can get a feel for the direction. So let's do this. There we go. What happens is they grow toward the light. So if a couple of them are going that way, they tend to all grow toward wherever the light source is coming from. Okay, let's put that one down in there. And again, it's the May green. So I'm just making a determination of, okay, where do I want these to go? And what size do I want them? Right? There's that coming into there. And now, the Asians, I grew up in Asia, and when the Asians paint, they want to do things in odd numbers. So right now we have one, two, three, four, five. So that is actually in balance. And if I pull this out right here, you're going to see the one that I already did before. And what does it have? One, two, three, four, five, right? And I was like, ooh, okay, I want to stop right there because it has five and it's in balance. Aha, in Japan, four is the unluckiest number, right? So my my parents or my mother studied Japanese flower arranging when we lived in Asia. And so that concept of you want one flower, or you want three flowers, or you want five flowers, or you want seven flowers is um, is a big concept there. And so what I want to do here is I like where this is going, and I like the five, but I feel like I need two more. I can't do just one more because if I do one more, then I'll have six. And six is, yeah, the odd numbers are a natural harmony. Exactly. Stay home to shop. So I have to add two more. I can't add just one more. So I'll bring them over here, or you know what? I could bring one sort of like this and then another one out here. So let's see how that works. Let's see. So remember that what I'm doing right now is I'm just using light colors and I'm sort of building a roadmap for where it is that I want to go. So I can do another one that comes out of here and just comes this way. Just a little bit right there. Actually, I'll bring it from there. There. That'll work. So you'll see it's from back behind. So that's number 6. It's number 6. No, we can't have 6. It's okay. It's okay. I fix it. So now we'll do this light green. The darks will come when I want to create all the definition. Ooh, the nice thing that I'm noticing is as this is drying, it's getting more purple. So the purple is coming back. Yay! Awesome. Love the purple. So now let's see, what do I want to do here? It definitely needs to come like from here. It needs to be here, but just sort of come up like this. Okay, that works. That works. So this one is back behind there. I'm coming up this way. Okay, that'll do it. I'm just putting in the lightest color. I can decide later if I want it to be thicker or thinner or whatever, right? Okay, but that at least is the basis of it. So I work back and forth. So now that I've laid those basics in, actually, it's very interesting, and it has to do with the way that I put the background on. You see right here, there's a little tiny bit of green that's like following along one of those little lines. Once this is dry, I can try to fix that. And the way that I do that with watercolor is I use this Willow's blender, or it's a blending brush. It has short, stiff bristles from Princeton. It is part of their Velvet Touch line, which works for, right, multi-tonal. Yes, stay home to shop. So this works for watercolors and acrylics as well. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to get it wet right now. Not too wet though. You just want it to be damp. And as long as this area is dry, I can work back in and I could pick that little bit of green right back up so I can adjust what I'm working on here by using this brush. It's perfect for like working back into it and fixing things. So, there we go. Um, all right, we're going to go back to the onion here because I need to a couple of things. I want to darken this area down here, so I'm actually going to put some dark green in there. But I'm going to mix that dark green with some of this. Let's try the uh, yellow gold. Okay, so that's kind of an olivey color, olivey green. Not dark enough. So the opposite of green is this Bordeaux. So I'm going to mix that in there. There. Now I have like a dark brown. This what I'm trying to do is make sure that you know that this area down here where the little hairs are coming out of is quite dark. So I'm just bringing a few dark hairs from there. Just want to be sure that that's extra dark right in there. And then where is, so it's also going to be extra dark on this side of the onion over here. Okay, so we're going to pull some of this, following along with the shape of the onion here, because we've got some extra dark. Okay, cool. Cool, cool, cool. So we're starting to get some darkness. Who could imagine that an onion would be a Mona Lisa portrait, right? Well, I'm sure Mona Lisa. I think that was an oil painting, wasn't it? So that means that the painter took a lot more care with the oil and had a lot more time to build the layers. So I've just put some more of the purple that we made on my brush, and let's see if I do another layer, if I can start bringing, oh yeah, okay, cool. I can start bringing in some of the lines from the onion skin. Yes, I can. So I'm working with the tip here and I'm just holding it and was it Michelangelo that painted the Mona Lisa? Who painted the Mona Lisa? The Mona Lisa. So now I'm coming up in here. Now I'm creating the onion shape with the lines. So of course it goes like this here and come in here, bringing it in this way. I'm not trying to be perfect. I want it to have more of an organic look to it. And like I said, if you're in an area that's lighter and you don't want the line to be quite so dark, but you want the remnant of it to be there, you just use your paper towel and you go in and you lift a little bit of the darkness of the line, and it still shows the line. Leonardo da Vinci. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, Michelangelo did the Sistine Chapel. Thank you, Leonardo. So I'm also going to bring some of the lines up in here so you can just sort of see the onionness of it, right? And a little bit right in here, just like that. Just to be able to give you the feel of the onion. Nice. The nice thing is, because it's a layer over top, I am still able to see, which is awesome. I'm able to see this line. So here, let's bring it and start. At some point, you have to separate it out, right? This side, it goes curved this way. This side is going to curve this way. So that's what I'm doing now. So I'm sort of bringing this here. Nice. And I'm just sort of tapping it, giving it so it's not too even. I don't want the lines to be even. That's just because that's not the type of painter that I am. I want it to look very organic. So to me, it doesn't matter if the lines are not, there's no perfection there. Oh, okay. You can tell. You can tell it's an onion, right? We've got our little suggestion of lines. Yay. That's awesome. If I want it to be a little more purpley down below here where that I put in that darkness, I'm just gonna swipe just a little bit more of the purple in here because I don't want too much of that brown to come up, but I just wanted a little bit more of the purple in there. Purpley red. Okay. A little bit more here. Like that. Just little marks. We'll let it dry and then we'll see what the effect is. Because I can always come back in, right? I made enough, so I have more of this. If by putting these little dark swipes on the side here, if by doing that I disturb the little lines I just made, I still have some in here. I can always go back in and add the lines back in. Okay, so now I would go to back up here, right? Because I got that wet. Now I want that to dry so I can see what I have. And then I want to come back up here and start defining defining this area a little bit more. So I want that area to be a little bit more brownish. The color I'm going into right now is the quinacridone gold. but I want to combine it a little bit with the brown gold. So I've got just a little bit more, a little bit browner, too brown, but that's okay because that's why you keep your paper towel handy so you can lift some of that back out. You put it down, you lift it out. It is going to dry a little bit lighter, right? Remember that? It is going to dry just a little bit lighter. So there we go. Just a little bit. You can always darken it a little bit more. Darker, darker, darker. But I just wanted to give it that sort of look like it is. Okay, I'm just putting a little bit of a few lines in here because at the bottom they do tend to get like this interesting little lines. Okay, let's go with some of the green. Now we're going to get the green just a little bit darker. The next layer. So if I wanted to darken the May green, which was the lighter green that I used, I can always come up here and put a little bit of the brown gold in with it, a little bit of the quinacridone gold in it. So let's just, oh yeah, nice, nice. Okay, quick, get that green up there. I dropped a little bit of green on there. And you know what? There are a few little green dots here, which actually is fine. There we go. This surface you're gonna find is very forgiving, which is like awesome. Uh, Let's just do this here. All right, cool. Likey, likey. So you see how it's just beginning to darken a little bit? Just beginning to darken a little bit from there. I actually have two waters going right here, so you can see this one has the yellow green in it, and this one has that purple. So, and since I'm working on the green part, I don't really want to be dipping my brush into the purpley one. I want to stick with the yellow and green one right now. I see a little something something that got in there. There we go. Get that out of there. Okay, so we've got this sort of almost olivey green going right now. So we're just building another layer. There we go. Beauteous. And another layer. This one out here. Let's see where it's going. Now, one thing I think you want to remember is that, of course, depending on where the light's coming from, but most likely there's a light source coming from the top. So the top edge of your these little onion greens is actually going to be a little bit more toward the yellow because that's going to be where your light source is coming from, right? So it's okay if you leave a little bit of it to be more yellow toward what would be considered the top as opposed to the bottom. Okay, oops. I still have little doggy hairs here in my house, even though my doggies passed away last year. It happens. Okay, let's get a little bit more like that. So it's just building the layers, making it darker by adding a little bit of quinacridone gold or a little bit of the brown gold to give us a little bit more of an olivey kind of feel to the colors. Um, After we do this, we will do the darkest dark, and then we'll put the yellow on the tips. Put the yellow on the tip. There we go. And this one, you don't have to use the same color on all of them. I could just put it on part of them and then go and just mix, 10 different greens. But for the for the sake of time, for what we're doing here, I'm just making them all, giving them all a little boost, right? Okay. So it's coming together, right? I love what's happening right here. It may be difficult for you all to see under the lights, but this is such a rich purple color because it's got that little bit of brown going for it from the visual mixing of this beautiful yellow background. So I'm really liking where that is going. And of course, I'm going to let that dry for a minute and then we're going to go back in and put a little bit darker bit up there. What we're going to do instead for right now, because I'm really happy at this point with where the onion is going. What I want to do, oops, see there are little bits here. And the beautiful thing is, it's not like paper. I can just take it right off. Hallelujah. With a damp cloth. I love it. Um, we have to decide where we want to put our where do we want to put our shadow, right? Well, for right now, what are we going to do to create a shadow? Um, this is that dark perylene green. Let me show you how dark this is. This is so cool. I love perylene green. I use it a lot for the deepest darks greens. You see that nice dark green right there? But if you mix that dark green together with some of this Bordeaux, you're going to get a gorgeous opposite of each other on the color wheel, right? You're going to get a really nice shadow color. Other people may be like, "Ooh, that's like an ugly gray," but actually it's not because when you put it on your paper, it separates into a little bit of the green and a little bit of the red. And so it's actually like the perfect way to make your shadow. So, where is the shadow? I guess I'm going to do the shadow sort of out this way at the moment. There we go. Ooh, against that yellow, it's really dark, really dark. E Okay, so I'm just sort of bringing it in here, not being too careful with it. And of course, now I'm just dragging some water through it because it's just so easy to feather your edges with this kind of surface that we're working on. Okay, so we've got a little bit of a shadow going here. I think I want to elongate it just a little bit more this way. Yee, why not? I like the long shadows. Okay, like that, right? Um, you see how it looks so like dark gray, right? Now, if I wanted it to talk a little bit more to this, meaning this is this Bordeaux, right? So I can actually grab some of the Bordeaux and make that dark color a little bit more toward the red because you're going to have a little bit of a reflection right along the edge right here, right? There's going to be a little bit of reflection of the color of the onion, not just a shadow. And that Bordeaux is in that the onion, so it ties it in a little bit better, right? When you add a little bit of that Bordeaux in with your shadow. So there we go. Eh, don't overwork it. Don't overwork it. I'm so famous for overworking. I have to avoid overworking. Um, okay, so I'm going to soften this edge just a little bit. I want it to sort of, I don't want it to be a strong edge. I'm just using water on my brush right now because I want to soften that edge just a little bit so it sort of just blends in with the background without having a particular line right there. Just soft. There we go. Because in reality, it just sort of goes out and I can actually pull just a tiny bit more of this. Make sure I have plenty of water on my brush, and I can do like another very soft amount out here. And then do this pounce, pounce, pounce to sort of soften it a little bit more. Okay, that's good enough for now. Now that this Paroline green I was telling you about, how it's a super dark green, I can take the Paroline green and a little bit of this permanent green over here, so it's not quite so dark. It's a dark version of this permanent green, and I kind of want to put some of that down in here because what this is coming out of this area, so it's really going to have a little bit of a shadow to it, right? And let me lift a little bit of that up because don't want it to be so dark. There we go. I just want it to be a suggestion of dark down there, right? And I can also just take a little more water here. Wick it off just a little bit. And I can bring this actually has some lines on it right in here. So I'm just doing a little bit of that green. See how I'm adding a little bit of detail with the tip of the brush here? Like this whole painting, I've used one brush, the size 8, except when I cleaned up the edges, right? I was using the Willow's blender. So you can do these kind of artworks just with one brush. It does work. Go. Just putting a few little bitty lines here. And then I'm going to real quick, like it's like too dark for me. There. So lift a little bit of that off so that you see the lines, but they're just almost more of a suggestion. There we go. Nice. There you go. Where that little transition from the onion going up, I wanted to have a little more definition in there. Okay. Well, there is a lot more that I could do with this, but I am going to stop it right here. And what I do is I finish the artworks. So this, I like where the onion is. I would mess around a little bit more with the shadow down here to get the shadow exactly where I want it. And then, of course, these only have 2 or 3 coats of green on them right now. So I would spend more time on those, and I'd look at my reference like this to see, ooh, okay, how do these actually look, right? If I wanted to do something like that, I don't have to. I can be more loose with it like this. If you look here, you see how loose I am right here, not trying to make it look like it. But with this one that I spent more time on right here, you can see the variations of greens, right? You have the light greens and the darker greens, the little yellow tips on the newer ones. That's what I would do with this is I would work on these tendrils a little bit more to get them to look more like this one. All right, I'm going to set this aside for right now, but it's beautiful because it's watercolor and I could come back 2 weeks later and pick up and keep working on it. My only advice is if you're going to set it aside and then come back to it, that you would have kept your palette with the same colors so that everything's going to work well together, like this with the dark purple in it, right? I would want to save these in order to be sure that I have all of the colors that I might need to go back in here and do some modification with. All right. But let me set this one aside right now. And I'm going to show you how I wax this so that it is prepared. Oop, hold on. I'm moving things around here. Um, I'm going to show you how I wax this so that it's ready to just go up on the wall. You don't have to put it behind glass. So let me move the paint out of the way, which we have lots of paint here. Okay, that's out of the way. And I can put the medium out of the way. We're done with that. Um, so this, I don't want it anywhere near water because if water touches it right now, it'll come right off, right? Oh my goodness. Yes. So this one is finished, and you want to make sure there's no fuzz on here. What I showed earlier is that when you finish the work, in this case on wood, um, you want to do the sides before you wax the top. Because if I did the top with the wax and any wax got on the edges, I would not be able to paint the edges because the wax would repel even acrylic paint. Okay, so I did an acrylic paint layer on the edges so that the edges are done the color that I want. I want to make sure there's no dust on here. Okay, and the painting is ready to go. Let me just move a few things here so things don't fall over as I'm doing this. Then I want to use my Jacquard brand Dorland's wax medium. I think Gamblin is a paint company that also makes a wax medium, but this is the one that most artists that I know use, and it is a combination of wax and let's see. I think there's some petroleum products in here. So yeah, harmful if swallowed. So do not swallow it. And it says seals artwork. Mix with oil colors to thicken them and make them more matte if you want to. So it is like an oil painting medium, but it also works for sealing watercolor. So I'm going to start off the watercolor here and then carefully move it over the watercolor. And I'm going to keep checking my cloth to be sure that I'm not picking up watercolor. You want your cloth that you're doing this with to be dry. You do not want to use a cloth that is at all damp, of course, because then if it is damp, it's going to lift up the watercolor, and you don't want that. You want to seal in the watercolor. There's a little spot right there. Okay. Let's see how this is nice and white. Ooh, there's something right there. So let me move my cloth. That's why I'm constantly looking at the white cloth because I want to make sure that I'm not picking up paint, and the white helps me to make sure of that. Okay. Because sometimes, depending on the watercolor, sometimes the paint will come up. So you do have to keep an eye on it. See, now it's nice and clean. So let me just I can now use my finger. You just want to be sure your fingers are clean and dry. You don't want them to be moist or wet or anything. That's why most of the time I use a cloth to start. I don't want to use my finger because your finger can just naturally have extra moisture in it, right? So let's pick up a little bit more. And you want to just do little areas. And I usually do it sort of in a circular motion like this. Just little areas at a time and check your cloth. Okay, cool, 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 cool. Nice. So I would go all the way around this and do this exact thing, little bit at a time. I'm not pushing too hard. I'm just gently trying to get that wax. to coat the surface. You are going to notice some streaking or lines in the wax. What you have to do is leave the wax overnight to set, and then you come the next day and you buff the wax. So it does have to have an opportunity to soak in, and then you can buff it. But this is how you can make your watercolor paintings um, waterproof, and then they can be mounted in a frame without glass if you've properly sealed them like this. Now, it's okay to put a second coat of wax on. Just realize that each time you apply wax, you're going to end up um, making the colors more matte, okay? Because each layer of wax keeps uh, sort of a matte surface to it. But I just love seeing the wood back behind here. If you look like this, let me see. I don't know if you can see it, but there's like a beautiful wood grain that's going through here, and that'll still be evident after you're finished. And I just think it's magnificent. I absolutely adore that. But I'm not gonna make you wait while I do the whole thing. I just wanted to show you that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to coat this whole thing, little section at a time, with the Dorland's wax medium. And when I'm done, then the painting, I will put a second coat on because as a professional, that's what you do. You put two coats on. Um, and then that way it will be ready to present, and you will not have to put it behind glass. You could just hang it up on the wall the way it is, or you could put it into a frame but not put any glass on it, like a floater frame or something like that. Isn't that cool? That is so cool. All right. Well, I hope you enjoyed that part of the show. That is the art lesson. And I can tell you that I really enjoyed doing this with you. Oh, thanks for the hearts, y'all. I appreciate it. I see some hearts flying. If you're over on YouTube, if you don't mind giving this a thumbs up, that always helps the algorithm. I appreciate that. Yes, Flower Gazer, you're welcome. I hope, Flower Gazer, that you you learned what you wanted to know about being able to paint on canvas, because here is the one that's on canvas, right? And I am going to do the same thing when I finish this painting. I will do the same thing with the wax, with the Dorland's wax. You can put it right onto your canvas as well. So I will seal this painting with that. Awesome lesson. Yes, you'll play with the canvas and watercolor this week. Fantastic. Do you have any of the medium that I was talking about? Either the golden watercolor ground? Okay, perfect. You have some of the ground. I'm telling you, it's more forgiving than paper. It is. It's fabulous. Absolutely fabulous. I am loving it. So thank you. Thank you. I just ordered it and haven't used it yet. Okay. All right. Coolio. Well, I'm gonna put this back in its bag because I don't want it to get any water on it, right? Because if it does, all this whole top part, I could literally splash water on this and scrub it all and take it all off. And that would make me cry. Right? So I'm gonna put it back. I use these plastic bags just to store it in so that it doesn't get so that it won't get damaged. But for next week, I'll finish these two, this one on the yellow background and this one. I'll finish these and then I'll show you what I did. All right.